This is the Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast.
Oh no! We suck again!
I'm getting confused. What game are you calling?
I'm calling both games.
It is caught by Kelsey! Touchdown! Kansas City!
I need 3 of those things, baby. We ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. You like that? You like that? I like that.
Did you know that a Hershey's chocolate bar over just, sitting at the grocery store and like you're about to like check out and there's a Hershey
did you
bar.
not realize that I just counted you down for the episode?
I did, and I decided to go off the rails for this one because did you know that inflation is a thing, and also that Hershey bars are probably now $1.25? Because guess what? It is episode 125 of Ruckus and The Menace Sports Podcast. I am Ruckus, always causing a ruckus.
Ruckus and The Menace, and apparently my partner here has ADD.
God damn, how'd you know?
Because that just made absolutely zero sense. Oh my. In this podcast, we're supposed to be about making dollars and cents, but the SENSE is really where the sense is, not a bunch of chump change.
I mean, my name is Ruckus for a reason, dog, but yeah, I catch where your church is going. Teehee.
Yeah.
All right, what we
What's
got?
going
homie?
on for this episode this week?
Giving the reins to you, my friend.
On this episode of the Ruckus and the Menace Sports Podcast, we kick off the Eastwood segment with the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh shit, my bad. We start.
we have the NFL Week 13 recap of the high heat.
Apparently, I forgot how to start the introduction to this podcast after being.
We feature
totally
championship week of college football as the main event of our film room. And we will wrap up with our stud and dud of the week. But Ruckus, notably, we had Thanksgiving pass through. We've had Black Monday or Black Friday, not Black Monday. Black Monday's here.
I mean, here's the thing with Black Friday nowadays. It used to be literally like 10 or it started at midnight on Thursday-ish to Friday. And then you'd be like, oh shit, now I gotta go kill some random stranger for a freaking Cabbage Patch doll or be the first one in line. Yeah, and like...
all you 90s people, especially you 90s kids, definitely know what a Tickle Me Elmo is.
Also, if you're a 90s kid, you remember the times when you would show up at midnight at a random GameStop and get all those good deals on video games for cheap.
Oh, man, I even remember midnight releases.
Dude,
but
same. The last big midnight release I remember was GTA 5. That
last one that
was
I did
10 or
was
11 years ago. That was 11 years ago. And then the last Call of Duty midnight release I remember was it was between Black Ops 2 and maybe the next game after that, which I think might have been Call of Duty Ghosts.
The last release I picked up physically at a quote-unquote midnight release was college football. But I landed a couple of Black Friday deals, especially in working on preparation for the 5th annual special episode that I generally will appear for Two Nerds in their Game of the Year, in one of their Game of the Year episodes. So I've basically picked up Black Friday deal on NBA 2K, and Astrobot for the PS5, and I'm enjoying them both. Astrobot has been a very good leisurely pace adventure, and I'm gonna say this: I think that one's probably been the best game this year.
Yeah, it's funny how that comes to fruition, where a game that wasn't really meant to be, or seemed like it wasn't meant to be, a game of the year candidate, but was more of just like a tutorial of what the PS5 could do, because that's originally how it started. Like
That's how the character. That's how the character formed.
Yeah.
But with all of that aside, let's get to what we kind of do best around here. And get right into the Eastwood segment, the good, the bad, and the ugly this week in sports.
Rolling the tumbleweed. Okay, so originally when doing the intro, I was being dumb, but here we are. What is good in sports, Menace?
All right, the good this week in sports. Although I could say ding dong, Neil Brown is fired to really rile up the Mountaineer crowd and celebrate. But this week, kind of our majority theme for good, bad, and the ugly is college football and rivalry week. As there were some bangers this year in rivalry week. The upset of the U by Syracuse. Michigan beating Ohio State for the 4th year in a row. But I think the instant classic out of the whole thing, clean, old-fashioned hate. The Georgia Tech game went 8 overtimes just to settle the score between Georgia and Georgia Tech. It even left Kirby Smart consoling the Georgia Tech coach. Just that game, it's a heated rivalry, but there's a lot of mutual respect that went on at the end of the day. That those two, it was a banger that was worth like the handshake at the end.
And especially with the respect factor there, in the NFL, you never see teams really beating the crap out of each other, trying to stick a flag or whatever. I mean, sure.
Whoa! Wait! We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We still got one more thing to go before that.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
We still had one more soapbox to jump on before we talked about that one, because that's another heated debate.
Yep.
But the bad in sports this week, I will let you take this one away, because this one was your thing, but I agree with it.
Okay, so what's bad in sports this week? So, of course, it happened on Black Friday. And of course, that is a holiday where you shop like crazy to try to get good deals or whatever, no matter if it's a storefront or a website with a storefront or whatever. It's a big holiday. And my point here is, so I saw DraftKings, or I believe it was a FanDuel ad. It probably was a FanDuel ad, because I think that's how...
I wouldn't be surprised if all of them had it.
But I saw, so I was watching it through YouTube TV for, because it was local to me, because it was at Arrowhead Stadium for the Black Friday game between the Chiefs and Raiders.
Oh yeah, on Amazon Prime, no less.
There was an ad that I saw about, I think it was DraftKings, because they were talking about, oh, we have our Black Friday deals, and they put it, the way they advertise it, it just seems too much. Because, like, yeah, you could have said too much about the advertising of sports betting when sports analysts and stuff like that were talking about their over-unders and shit like that. Like, that could have annoyed me a little bit, but as a sports fan to me, it seems like okay, yeah, you could probably do that if you want to do that or whatever. I don't care. Like when people saw the first part of advertising for that, the people that were really concerned about gambling addiction and whatnot were probably like, okay, this is probably too much, or this and that. Personally, I think the Black Friday ads that they showed were even like I feel like that's where we draw the line in the sand. Like we go like, hey, like don't do that, but you can still do like your other advertisements. Like that's how I feel. I feel like it's a bit too far. How do you feel,
I'm
Sven?
not a fan of I'm not a fan of the industry at all as a whole, because here's what here's what the sports betting thing has done. Sports betting has taken what people could genuinely enjoy in watching a game of football or basketball, and now you're starting to, and yeah, you could obviously make like certain like mutual bets like amongst like your friends.
Yeah.
But now you're doing this with, but if you were to do this with like an actual sports book, when we were younger, you only could do that in one place, or at least in one state. And that was the state of Nevada, pretty much going to Vegas and doing it. Now you've got sports betting kind of expanding out to just about nearly every state. However, you still end up with a bunch of, like, it's like you're feeding into gambling addiction. And the Black Friday deals, it's like, oh, now you're going to be giving like all these deals to try and have even more bets, to try and entice people to think, oh, now that I got this one win, it's like, okay, now I'm going to try and win even more.
I'm gonna
When
admit to one thing
more
here though
oftentimes than not,
too.
the house always wins.
Yeah, the house always wins, but also okay, so I was curious about this at one point whenever sports betting was like first legalized in Kansas. My first and only parlay that I did cuz I killed the account because I felt bad for talking about gambling in front of my parents. Um it was a parlay, and that was the game where the Chiefs and Raiders were playing on Monday Night Football, and Derek Carr was still the quarterback, and Travis Kelsey had like I think 3 or 4 touchdowns total that game, and the parlay was Devonte Adams had to get a touchdown, and then Josh Jacobs had to get a touchdown, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire had to get a touchdown, and I believe the last person in that was Travis Kelsey or someone like that. And I didn't get the parlay because Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't score a touchdown. He was close, but he didn't get it. And I was like, dang. And I think the grand prize for that, or the intake that would, or the income that I would get from that would have probably been like 200 something, but I lost that parlay. But there were other bets I did where I gained maybe like a few dollars, and I don't know. To me, sports betting is just it'd be fun to like do little wagers, but I like the commercial that Kurt Warner did with the sports betting, like saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, only do what you can do, and
Don't chase
own
your
it."
losses. And
Yeah, like
yeah.
be responsible with it, but the problem with being responsible is there's like tendencies where you're like, I think I really want to get X or Y. Like I think that's a good idea, and then it pops into your head, and that could lead to another dry spell too. But I just think Black Friday cameos and doing that stuff, you could. I think that belongs in a different. I think that needs to be filtered out rather than just be stuck. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, what's
For me,
what's
it's
ugly with
just
you?
I'm not a believer. I'm just not a believer in it, just simply because I am a I am a person that says sports betting. I think takes away the enjoyment of actually taking in the game for the game.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get right into the ugly. That was a bit of a stretch there, but
Oh no, this was. But I'm gonna say it was a worthwhile stretch that we needed to make.
yeah, I was kind of mixed on the opinions, but I'm glad that we talked about it.
Yep. And with rivalry week comes bad blood, where multiple fights break out, especially over the issue of flag planting at midfield. A few places where there were brawls. I'm gonna start with NC State and North Carolina. In the Wolfpack were bowl eligible. NC State players brought a flag in the intention of planting it into the turf. However, Tar Heels stopped them from doing it, pushing and shoving. Ended up with the spear with the flag being thrown being nearly thrown into the stands. The Florida State fight brought in the coaches, and
I
Florida
saw.
coach and the Florida coach Billy Napier didn't endorse the flag being there. Arizona State used their pitchfork from the Sun Devil
Didn't wasn't there
to
like a
try and
pepper
do.
spray incident too between Ohio State and
Oh, I was.
Michigan?
Oh, I was. Yeah, I was doing that for last because that was one of the biggest fracases where pepper spray was brought out
Yeah, because I
because
saw a
Michigan
thing with
tried to
Pat
bring out.
McAfee, so that's why. Anyways,
Yeah, I was doing it in a different order, going from really some of the more milder ones to this one, which was really the one that took the cake.
yep, you clickbaity,
But
man. Anyways,
oh no, oh no, I was just giving you like you know how a fight starts with like, oh, the ones that are not as good, and then right near the end of the card you get the co-main event and the main event.
yeah,
Like if you're watching a UFC card, that's what I was trying to get to.
yeah.
But I think the real question is, should the flag planting celebration across college sports be banned? Or at least
Um,
heavily regulated, just
I
like
think
just like field storming.
okay. So here's where I regulate it. I regulate it to the intro of the how the home team goes out. So like, so for the Seminoles, you know how like they always stab the field or whatever, being like, "Hey,
Yeah.
like let's go." That's okay, but I think if you're gonna do the flag, do it when you actually win like something like significant besides like your little trophy that gives you bragging rights for the next year or whatever. Like if you get to the national championship or you win a bowl, then you plant your flag. But you do it in a way that's respectable and not douchey. Because if people are going to have like a higher ego and try to piss the other team off, they're going to find other ways besides that. Because you never know. They could have been egged on the whole game, or it could have just been the one thing that set them off, which was the flag being planted on their home turf. Like, I don't know. How would you feel if you were that like
Well,
dedicated?
I'm gonna say this. I think that the amount of fights that broke out, especially over the ceremony, over the celebratory flag plant. Now, I will say this: if you are at home, if you are at home, it is a little more. It's a little more accepted, but I'm gonna say that I think it's gonna be a little bit more of a bannable. It's
I think
becoming
it's a
more
very tender
bannable.
moment.
Yeah, it is becoming more bannable, especially over the heat of the game. Now, I understand Florida State say at the beginning of the game where it's tradition at home, but Florida was but every single instance where the fight broke out, the team that was planting the flag was on the road.
Right. And that's where I'm kind of like, well, like that's kind of a little disrespectful to like
But
I
yeah,
view that
that's
I view that kind of like how like when people either uh so with the flag planting, if you're doing it in pregame it's fine because it's like a ritual or whatever, but when you're doing it at the end of a game when you're the road team doing that, that will cause a lot of unneeded tension and potential explosion of angry people. But I think if you're dancing on the field midfield as a disrespect, that could be also bad too, as well. But anyways,
yeah, I think that there are lines to be drawn with this. I have a feeling that the NCAA is going to say, yeah, we're gonna ban the post game the flag planting it
just be
because
more civil. Like the whole point of going from the college football experience to the pros, if you actually want to be in it, like you gotta understand and mature more when it comes to like being a good team player or just someone that has it for the love of the game. Like
yeah,
there's a reason why you
yeah
don't see that in the
I think
NFL.
that the flag planting is going to it is going to get heavily regulated, or there are going to be fines doled out
Yeah,
in the future
kind of
over
like how
it.
the NFL does it.
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So now the next thing we're going to go to is the Week 13 recap of the High Heat. Many games were played. We had a full slate of 16 games, and the 16th game is being played right now, where Cleveland is currently leading Denver 10-7. However, we're going to talk about really three notable games from this week. And we will start with the Detroit Lions defeating the Chicago Bears 23-20. And we have a couple of different things that happened really through all of this, where Chicago basically had themselves within the range of having Cairo Santos try and tie the game up. But clock management screwed them up. And Matt Eberflus said, "Oh, this was exactly how we wanted to do it." 24 hours later, he's handed his pink slip.
Dude sounded like the former employee that I had to deal with at my job, which would make shit up all the time just to keep their job. And yes, I am getting a little personal there because I have dealt with people that mouthed off heinous shit in the past, and yeah, not naming any names, but Abraflus, you kind of sound like you're making a lot of excuses, and it definitely showed here.
And it sounded like whatever game script you were going on, you looked like you had a little bit too much of the Delulu. Like you were Delulu to think that you're there with less than 30 seconds to go. You have a timeout. You have a timeout. And you lose a game because you decide to try and run one last shot that Caleb Williams changed the play at the line because there wasn't enough time on the clock because you mismanaged the clock and the timeout situation. The guy is drunk, and there he goes.
The dude looks like a freaking drama queen, just with his hair and everything. And then whenever he's like actually talking to the media, he just kind of sounds like, "Yeah, I'm like, I, I, I just work here, and I'm just gonna say whatever I can to try to appease the Bears front office." But anyways, do we want to
But
go to the next one?
was the last major but the real question here is, was the last major decision that Eberflus had in changing the offensive coordinator, do we feel that that has been a net benefit for the Bears after a couple of weeks?
Um, I think it like gives more experience to Caleb Williams as far as realizing the task at hand and realizing the pace of the NFL and getting a taste of the postseason and just the greatness that he has around him, with like the offensive talent wise and defensive.
I believe the Bears as an offense were getting better. The offense was improving. And the issue really was a Matt Eberflus problem instead of a Caleb Williams problem.
Right.
So
I
they
agree with that.
basically realized that Eberflus was off to this nice little win streak start, and then the bell curve started to fall. And they did not catch the bell curve fading soon enough because Eberflus probably should have been fired about 2 weeks prior, when some major mismanagement was already occurring.
I do agree with
So
that, but I was also kind of hesitant because I didn't, because up until this season when I was actually playing for the Bears in the Super Bear race, check that out. Also check out Spence's Commanders
new
one.
era and old DC.
Yeah, buddy. Um, but yeah, I think the writing was on the wall, but I was just trying to be a little bit optimistic. But that's what happens when you play nice for too long, or I guess invest more time into someone that is clearly doing some wrongdoing. But it is what it is. I don't blame the Bears for what they did. All right.
The next game we will have Pittsburgh 44, Cincinnati 38. And the real question here is, where have the Bengals really went wrong this season?
I think Mike, is it Jim Brown or Mike Brown? The
It's
main
Mike Brown.
honcho.
Yeah, it's Mike Brown.
I think Mike Brown needs to realize that Jamar Chase is your future. I think T. Higgins is like a part of that, but I don't know if he's worth as much as Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase is like the main chemistry guy with Joe Burrow. You saw it in Jamar Chase's rookie season when Burrow came back from his I believe, wasn't it his leg or his Achilles
It
or
was an
something?
injury. Yeah, it was an injury. Yeah, I think it was a calf injury.
Yeah. And then the year when he comes back with Jamar Chase and him were buddies from LSU, and they were tearing up every defense of any team, even the Chiefs, to get to the Super Bowl. And you're not going to extend Jamar Chase because of the fact that he may not be as good as he was his rookie season. I think what's really going to happen is T. Higgins, he walks, and then you get Jamar Chase as the extension. I think they're just trying not to piss off T. Higgins at the wrong time. Like, the wrong place, wrong time mentality. But I think where they really went wrong is just, I think maybe they tried too much, or they overthought or overthunk some things when they just need to play basic football. Like, do what they did before instead of have some miscues.
Okay. So currently, Jamar Chase is on the final year of his 4-year contract. He has a club option at $21 million. So if Cincinnati picks up his 5th-year option, he will have 1 more year with the team. But they could extend him because this year Jamar Chase is tied for second in the league in receptions, leads the league in receiving yards, and leads the league in receiving touchdowns. So Jamar Chase has shown this season that he's been a little bit healthier. He's earning his keep, and Joe Burrow's been healthy, so he's been earning his keep. And this has probably been the best season that Joe Burrow has had in his career, minus getting to the Super Bowl. Well, I mean, minus getting to the Super Bowl, but the best statistical season. So yes, with Jamar Chase, he's still got another year under contract should the Bengals allow it or pick it up.
Yeah.
However, I think the real issues in Cincinnati, the defense has not played as well, but I think this very well could come down to a Zachary Taylor thing. As I don't feel that the Bengals have schematically played as well as they truly could have. So, let's look at the Bengals' schedule this year. Inexcusable loss to the Patriots by a touchdown.
Sure.
Lost to the Chiefs by a point where they kind of fumbled the bag a little bit.
I mean, they've been following the bag since Burrow had my ass, so here we go. Anyways, keep going.
Lost to the Commanders where Jaden Daniels was in his Hemi bag. They lost to the Ravens by 3. They got smoked by the Eagles. They fumbled a bag away against the Ravens again. They've lost their last 3. All of them. So the Bengals have lost a bunch of really, really close games.
They should have won the 2 against the Ravens if they actually gave a shit.
Oh, well, they lost the 1 in overtime. I think they lost the 1 in overtime.
Ooh, I think the Bengals were better than the Ravens. I said it.
Yeah, but
as a team, not like as their current state, but as a team, if they actually believed.
Yeah, so I think that the Bengals are losing a lot of ground simply because Zach Taylor is not coaching them as well in being able to have a bunch of those things. It's like Burrow's lamenting that the Bengals haven't been good enough. Where does that ultimately center the blame? It's
off with his head!
Yeah, it's going to go right to Zachary Taylor. I think that Zachary Taylor is still going to finish out the season. I think he will finish out the season.
Off with his head!
But I think Zachary Taylor will be fired on Black Monday. He is on Black Monday watch right now.
up with his head. You're welcome.
I have a podcast partner right now that is sounding more like the Queen of Hearts.
Ouch.
And
All
the
right.
next one, the next game is Eagles 24, Ravens 19. And the question here is, has either one of these teams shown potential to dethrone the top seed in their respective conference for a Super Bowl run? This being the Eagles in dethroning the Lions and the Ravens in dethroning the Chiefs.
I think the Eagles have a better opportunity of dethroning. Um,
The
who are
door
they?
is more open for the Eagles. I think the door is more open for the Eagles.
Especially because the Ravens. Okay, so if the Ravens are ever going to dethrone the Chiefs, they gotta actually use Derrick Henry more than they did the time that they played him in the very beginning of the season. If we're gonna play this like a playoff game, like I'm talking now, where Derrick Henry's used more, you also have, as Lamar Jackson, have to have better vision when it comes to the secondary. I mean, it's very hard. Like, I get it. Like, I really don't get
Okay.
it, but yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Can I have you pump the brakes for a second here?
Go
Here
ahead.
was the stat line for Derrick Henry in that game against the Chiefs in Week 1. Derrick Henry did have 13 carries for 46 yards and a touchdown. But here's where I'm going with this. Okay, back when this was the thing, Derrick Henry was also in his first game in a Ravens uniform. So there was still a lot of learning along the way of what the Ravens offensive scheme was to be like.
Pause. I call BS on that because here's the thing. Derrick Henry was probably the more clutch guy on the offense that night compared to anything else that Lamar Jackson was doing at Arrowhead. Like, they looked more scarier when they had Derrick Henry actually running it because he was actually producing a lot more than Justice Hill or anyone else on that offense that night.
Are we watching the same game? Lamar
I
Jackson had 273 yards and a touchdown through the air and had 122 yards on the ground, and Baltimore nearly tied the game by a toe. By a toe!
Well, there were a few things I saw in the highlights before that that showed that Derrick Henry wasn't used all that much.
It was his first game as a Raven. They figured
Okay,
it out now.
use. Okay, but if I was John Harbaugh, if I was one of the Harbaughs, I would have probably had him in more often than not, even though it was his first game, just to get him going. Because they probably didn't really use him much in the preseason. It's like, okay, let's see what he could do against the Chiefs. He has done pretty well against the Chiefs, and even then, anyways.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is that it does not matter that your argument for me in this case is not holding as much water because of because of when the game occurred. Not so much how Derrick Henry was utilized in that game. It is more about the when in this case than what happened. I think that if they were to run into each other more than likely in the divisional, I think the game's dynamic is going to be about 5 times different.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Baltimore will win, but I'm saying
Right.
that the dynamic and the usage of Derrick Henry and the being able to effectively use him as a weapon is going to be different. And the
Yeah.
Chiefs defense actually did a pretty good job of, on the 13 touches that Derrick Henry had, minus one of them being for a touchdown, holding that in check for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not denying it. You're just saying that Baltimore needs to use Derrick Henry more.
Right.
What if the situation didn't necessarily call for that? What if Derrick Henry was being used for what the situation called for properly? It was just, that was more of a Lamar Jackson type of game.
But not everyone's judgment is the greatest, though, when it comes to their role. But that also contradicts my point a little bit because of the fact that I'm trying to say that Derrick Henry is should have been used more. Like, what if there was a play? What if history was altered and um, they played like a running play, or they played a like RPO where Derrick Henry actually gets the ball rather than the running back? Like, they disguise Justice Hill as a running back, but instead give it to Henry and he goes for like a gain of 10 or whatever. Like, I feel like the creativity just wasn't there for them in the beginning, and that's why I'm
And
thinking the
that's game one. And that's game one. Yeah, so you're not going to see the same thing out of an opponent in another matchup. So you can't just assume that if those two teams were to collide in the playoffs, that you're going to see the exact same thing.
yeah.
But I do believe that the Eagles have the capability of holding a little more water to it. But I think that what Detroit does well is being able to possess the ball with multiple effective weapons. And the Eagles have probably the most balanced team right now to be able to check a lot, to take care of a lot of the checks. Their only two losses were to Atlanta and to Tampa Bay. They don't play Detroit in the postseason because their opponent in the division that the Detroit Lions were in was the Green Bay Packers. So, with this being said, I think that the Eagles have a very good chance, especially because Saquon Barkley's an animal. He is
Especially when
just straight
healthy,
up.
he is a
Oh,
absolute
he is straight up
dog.
right now. Yeah. And Derrick Henry has 1,407 yards rushing, and Saquon Barkley is actually close to 1,500 yards. His next carry, if it gains 1 yard, he breaks 1,500. And this is the first time that they've had pretty much those top running backs at over 1,300 yards rushing lock horns with each other for a football game this late in the season. So this Eagles-Ravens game had a bunch of historical proportions on top of that. So I think we've got a couple of really good matchups. But I think the team that has the better chance of taking out the Chiefs is still the Buffalo Bills right now, more than it is the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, please. They haven't won a Super Bowl yet. That's the inner hater of the Bills rivalry with the Chiefs, by the way.
Yeah, there's your inner hater of the Bills, but I'm saying at the same time, pull the reins back a little bit, and Buffalo has shown that they are capable because they've done it. Because they've done it at least once. And the biggest battle is right now between whether or not the next matchup is going to be at Arrowhead or if it's going to be in Orchard Park.
Or it's gonna be at Burrowhead.
Let's just move on to the film room because that was because in this case you are talking about the wrong team. We're done talking about the Bengals.
Oops.
And now we move on to the film room. We now move on to the film room where I still currently have a 23-point lead. 188 to 165, and we are in Championship Saturday for college football. And the first game that we have on the board for 3 points, the Mountain West Championship game between the Boise State Broncos and the Running Rebels of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas.
I'm picking Boise State. Go Stangs.
Yeah. Gianti is a whole nother animal. Go Broncos. This is where a true Broncos country let's ride is because of Ashton Gianti. I'm taking Boise State to win the Mountain West. The next one, the American Conference Championship. The Army Black Knights take on the Tulane Green Wave. Who you got?
I'm picking Army. I'm picking Army over Tulane.
I am taking the Green Wave. For 4 points, the Iowa State Cyclones versus the Arizona State Sun Devils in the Big 12 title.
I'm picking Iowa State. Go Cyclones.
Taking the Sun Devils of Arizona State in this one. The SEC title game is next. Georgia versus Texas.
All right, I'm taking a bit of a wild card pitch, and I'm going Texas. Go Horns. Hook 'em. Hook 'em, Horns. Let's
Hook
go.
'em. Hook 'em. Yep,
Oh,
I am
shit,
taking
you're-
Texas as well here.
Ooh, I thought you were going to take Georgia. Damn, that got spicy. Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking Texas. Yep. And then Penn State versus Oregon for 5 points in the Big 10 title game.
A few words. Quack. Quack.
Quack.
Quack. Quack.
Quack.
Quack.
Yeah, we are taking the number 1 Oregon Ducks.
Quack. 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 Quack.
Oh,
Okay.
my. All right. On to the ACC title game now, where we have Clemson versus Southern Methodist University.
I'm picking
That's what
Clemson.
SMU stands for. I'm taking SMU here.
I thought about it, and then I
Clemson-
was like, I don't know, man. Like, maybe Clemson pulls it out, but anyway.
Clemson just got stunned. Clemson just got stunned by South Carolina.
Are you sure it wasn't by Lil Wayne stunting like my daddy?
I said stunned, not stunt. There was no stunted. It was just stunned. There was no extra T. There was no extra T. That extra T should be followed by a Mister, where it's their pitying fools. Like
I was
yourself.
about to say, I pity the fool.
And then the Sun Belt title game, we got Marshall versus Louisiana Lafayette.
I'm picking
the Raging Cajuns.
I'm picking Louisiana Lafayette because I like to live dangerous.
I am taking the herd. I'm taking the Thundering Herd here and Marshall. And to our 4 NFL games, of which we picked all but one the same. For 4 points, Packers-Lions on Amazon Prime.
I'm picking Lions.
I am taking the Lions as well. Falcons-Vikings.
Way to add suspense. I like it. Falcons Vikings. I'm picking the Vikings because I think Sam Darnold is gonna say, "Who's your daddy?" and Kirk Cousins says, "I'm your well." Is he my dad technically? To the family tree and
I
whatever.
am taking Skull. I am taking Skull as well here. Chargers Chiefs. We both said the Chiefs.
How about those Chiefs? All right.
And then
Next
last
one.
but not least, where we disagreed, Seahawks Cardinals.
I think the baby still needs to learn a few more tricks, and I think Gino's going to beat the Cardinals. I think the Seahawks defense is just a lot better than the Cardinals, but prove me wrong.
I think Kyler Murray is a little better in the desert than he is on the road. So I'm going to take the Cardinals here. The Cardinals are 4-2 at home. Those Seahawks are 4-1 on the road. We're going to close it out with getting to our stud and dud of the week. Ruckus,
Yes, sir.
take it away.
All right, so for the stud for this week, I have the interviews between the Chiefs players being asked what Coach Reed would want for Xmas, and this was during the prime portion of their pregame, as they had like exclusive interviews with like Taylor Rooks and Patrick Mahomes, and I believe there was like some other interviews, but the main one that I took away from seeing that on the pregame was their question about what Andy Reid would want for Christmas, and Chris Jones, I believe, said a cheeseburger, and then Patrick Mahomes when
I was gonna say a cheeseburger.
Patrick Mahomes went two routes. He went Hawaiian shirts and cheeseburgers, and then Travis Kelsey went with I believe it was a Hawaiian shirt, but like I saw that and I was like, that's freaking cute, but also kind of hilarious that they would all think that it was between cheeseburgers and Hawaiian shirts.
How about a Hawaiian shirt with cheeseburgers on it?
Cheeseburger in paradise. Rip. I guess how I know that.
I knew that was
because a freaking
Jimmy Buffett.
Okay, don't even get me started right now. Cheeseburger in Paradise is one of the that was like a childhood memory for me, and the fact that the Legends Kansas City.
It's
yeah, I'm
Jimmy
calling you.
Buffett.
I'm calling you MFers out because Cheeseburger in Paradise is no longer Cheeseburger in Paradise in Kansas City, Kansas, over by the Kansas Speedway. It is something foul and condemned in my memory because Cheeseburger in Paradise was, in my opinion, the best vibe and restaurant out there. And
you went with the restaurant. I was going with the Jimmy Buffett song.
Dude, the freaking restaurant was the bomb.com. Like, god dang. So many good memories. Anyways, let's keep it rolling here.
Yep, and now to your dud.
My dud is probably better than whatever the hell was about to happen there. The Oakland I'm sorry. Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders fumbling the snap at the end of the game that could have been a win if they got off a field goal. But they fumbled at the opportunity. Aiden O'Connell was looking at one direction and then went, oh shit, here's a ball. It's coming to me. It fumbled. And it's gone. Game over. Butt fumbled opportunity for the Raiders, even though it wasn't a butt fumble, but they kind of didn't have the timing right. Anyways, Spennis, go ahead.
All right. So, special honorable mention for the longest interception return by a defensive lineman. Yes, Seahawks defensive tackle Leonard Williams passed Grant Widstrom's record by picking off Aaron Rodgers for a 92-yard thick six. Yes, that is exactly what I am calling this pick six, because you know that if a defensive tackle is doing that, You're saying, run, big guy, run! So, yes, Leonard Williams is my honorable mention. My stud for this week is none other than the Detroit Lions running backs, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, for channeling their nicknames of the running back tandem of Sonic and Knuckles into their, pretty much with their cleats for their Thanksgiving showdown against the Bears. They didn't get a rushing time.
Who
They
would have
didn't get a
predicted
rushing
that Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery would be like the dynamic duo? Because like Jahmyr Gibbs, you wouldn't have thought out of college going into the pros that he would be who he is. He's just a machine. Sorry,
Yeah. But he is the faster. But with him being the faster of the two backs, he got the Sonic cleats, and then David Montgomery's the power back of the two, where he got the Knuckles cleats. And
damn straight. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, I said damn straight, and then we just like kind of, it just kind of went derailed. So
Yep, but my dud this week goes to West Virginia coach Neil Brown, or should I say, former West Virginia coach Neil Brown, for stinking up the joint in a 52-15 loss against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And after only a couple winning seasons in Morgantown, he finally gets fired yesterday. And now the West Virginia faithful are looking for their new football coach. And there's been a lot of speculation of who is coming to Morgantown. And when I find out, y'all will know. Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Ruckus and the Menace episode number 125. I am Ruckus, always not causing a ruckus, always not causing a ruckus.
Sure he isn't. I'm Spanish the Menace.
And we'll see you guys later. Deuces.
Dude.